So good afternoon. My name is Michelle Koker, and I am the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education in the College Continuing and Professional Studies. And I, as well as my colleague in grad education, Ritu Saksena, are proud and welcome, and I'm happy to host everybody at our January version of CCAPS Faculty Development Day. We have a great agenda for you today. I think you'll find it extremely informative and enlightening, and we hope you come away from the day feeling like you're ready for spring semester, which starts in less than a week, starts next Tuesday. I'm going to take the first half of the presentation, and then Ritu will take the second half of the presentation. We're not going to take too long this morning. This is really just a welcome and an introduction and some basic housekeeping issues for spring semester to make sure that everyone's prepared. So the key takeaways with what Ritu and I are going to talk about here is just preparing for spring semester, obviously making sure you're ready. There's information we want to share, updated information about vaccine and booster mandates, masks, and testing, building hours, and access, and then navigating academic issues in the classroom and additional resources. So why don't we go ahead and get started. So preparing for the spring semester. Now, obviously, I'm not going to click on all the links in the presentation in the slideshow, but the slideshow will be shared with you after the event is done. And so you can feel free to go ahead and click on the links and go through it as you at your convenience. But basically, we wanted to make sure everybody was aware that the masking continues to be required. Masking is required in all indoor spaces on campus and recommended, obviously, even outdoors, but required indoors. And you probably received information yesterday from President Gable about N95 masking. There are supplies available, but you would need to contact either myself, or for grad education, it would be Michelle Iwin, I believe. Ritu, is that who you'd want them to contact?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. So if there are faculty who are teaching in the classroom and want to request an N95 mask, please let us know. There are also face shields available that can be made available to you upon request. Again, either contact me, Michelle Koker, for undergraduate, or Michelle Iwin for graduate education, and we'll have that contact information later in the presentation. And then obviously for faculty or students who need accommodations, you would need accommodations for masking specifically, is what we're talking about here. You need to reach out to the Disability Resource Center. And again, these links will be live in the slideshow that we share after the event. And so there's university guidance on student positive cases. There's a lot of information for faculty. It is not your responsibility to report cases. But however, if a student self-reports, one of the things that faculty need to be prepared to do is to help students identify close contacts. So that would be something that would be an important part of your role. However, you need to realize that the fact that the student has tested positive is private information, and you can't announce it to the class or announce it really to anybody. So just make sure that that's not something that you are doing. You just want to be clear on that. But there's more information about how to handle a student positive case that is brought to your attention. So for vaccines, I think all of you are aware that the university is requiring a proof of COVID-19 vaccination, or if you have not been vaccinated, they are requiring a request for either a medical or a religious exemption. So you need to have one of those two things on file in order to be teaching this spring. And Ritu and I are well aware of folks who have asked, who have submitted information, or folks who are missing information at this point in time. It looks like we're all clear for spring semester. And as the message, the latest message from President Gable indicates, fortunately, I believe it's over 96% of students have indicated that they are vaccinated, and about 94% of staff and faculty have indicated they are vaccinated. So we have a high percentage of participation in the vaccination. Faculty, as we mentioned before, so faculty are required. You've already been required to show proof of vaccination. However, and Ritu will get into more details with this later, proof of vaccinations or booster, is coming. So that will be another mandated piece of information. If your request for an exemption, a medical or religious exemption has already been approved, you don't need to resubmit that. But if you have a booster, if you've had a booster shot, then you will need to submit that information in order to be completely up to date with the university requirements there. There is a link to information about where vaccinations are available. There are free vaccinations available on campus. I believe the place that they're doing that is over in the Reckwell Center on the east bank of the Minneapolis campus. And that's our Boynton Health Service that's offering that, but there's more details on the link there. COVID testing is encouraged, obviously, and the university also has a free testing program called the M-Test program. So if you're interested in participating in that, you can take advantage of that. You can also refer students to that as well. And then obviously, if you have any underlying health conditions that prevents you from receiving a vaccination or makes the vaccination less effective, you can always work with Disability Resources Center staff, and they can make suggestions about appropriate accommodations or adjustments. So something that's really important, hopefully everybody's aware of this, but those of you who are new might not be aware of this. The university has moved to restricting building access. And this has to do with public safety. It also has to do a bit with the pandemic. So currently, Ucards are required for building access for a number of buildings on campus during what they call university hours. So you'll see that link in the slide. That link will actually take you to a listing of all the buildings on campus. And it lists both their public hours as well as their university hours. Now, public hours, during public hours, Ucards are not required in order to gain admission. Your Ucard is actually like your university identification card, and you use it, you swipe it typically in order to gain access. But during university hours, that's when you need to use your Ucard to get access to buildings. So you'd want, before spring semester starts, you'd want to check out the public hours and the university hours. You'd want to check out the building that you're teaching in just to confirm whether or not you're going to need your Ucard for access during the time that you have your class. So that's important to check that out before the semester begins, or just to make sure that you know where your Ucard is and that you're carrying it with you if you're teaching on campus. Obviously, this isn't relevant if you're not teaching on campus, but if you are, make sure that you're keeping your Ucard with you at all times. So if you need to get a Ucard, because that's going to be required for you to get building access, or if you're just interested in getting a Ucard, it's always smart to have one if you're a student, faculty, or staff member. There's a link we have for the process to get a Ucard. It's pretty straightforward. You can actually even upload a photo, so that saves you some time. You have to actually go into Northrop Auditorium, or I'm sorry, Kaufman Union to get your Ucard. That's where the main Ucard office is. But you can upload a card and or upload a photo, and that would save you some time, so you don't have to have your photo taken when you go into Kaufman Union. So I think that is my final slide. Is that right, Ritu? Are you taking the next one?
Yes, that's right, Michelle.
All right, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So welcome everyone. I'm Ritu Saksena. As Michelle said, I'm the Associate Dean for Graduate Education. Let me start by extending my welcome to all of you. And thank you for making the time this afternoon to join us and your commitment to teaching in the CCAPS community. So just keeping, Michelle, next slide, please. So as we talk about, these resources, so I'll be talking about a few things, but just so you know, there are lots of resources, lots of links in the slides, as Michelle mentioned, that you can click on. But the primary thing I want to talk about is the navigating academic issues in the spring. We enter another semester with a lot of unknowns, a lot of changes, and lots of flexibility required. So as we start the semester, you've seen this email that went out from Provost Rosen on January 6th. You should have all received it, about what to do in case of unexpected situations. So there is a lot more flexibility being offered this semester in terms of if there are issues related to illness, isolation, quarantine, other COVID-related reasons. So you have the right to make necessary adjustments to your course delivery, even though overall the provost has stressed we would like courses to be offered in the modality they're supposed to be offered in. In case of issues, you are welcome to move your course online or cancel or reschedule a class. Of course, this is with the caveat that you inform Michelle Koker if it's undergrad, or Michelle Ivan if it's grad. So just so we know, if you're if you're finding a substitute instructor, you're moving a class on, whatever you're doing, we're aware of whatever arrangements you're making, and we are able to support you as best as we can. So these are all temporary measures that are available to you in case, I hope everything goes well in the semester and none of these accommodations are needed, but just in case things happen, we want you to be prepared. So just along those lines, there are some things that we think are best practices and will be helpful for you in this semester, and will be helpful for us as we continue to support you. We strongly recommend the use of the gradebook and Canvas and basic rubrics. This is in case somebody needs to step in and help out in the class or two and know exactly where students are in the semester. We also recommend flexibility and leniency with late assignments and deadlines. There's also the policy for makeup work for legitimate absences. Just sharing all of these links with you, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to click on anything. And please note, there's also recommended syllabus language around masking policies, and a link to how to address disruptive conduct in case something happens in the classroom. These are all just best practices. You'll find these useful. If you're a returning instructor, you're probably familiar with all of this. If you're a new instructor, please click on these links and you'll find a lot more information as needed. So the last slide, as Michelle tries to think, is just a lot of additional resources that you should have access to, including who to contact. And to repeat what I said earlier, if you have questions or concerns at the graduate level, please contact Michelle Ivan. At the undergraduate level, you can contact Michelle Koker. There's an ATD faculty resource page on that, that you can click on if you want additional information. There is additional information around instruction, scenarios, guidelines offered through the Center for Educational Innovation. And then, of course, a lot of information on the Safe Campus website. I know we're inundating you with information, but when needed, I'm sure all of these resources will be immensely helpful.